weeks of the pandemic felt unreal, then the concept of being around people without masks after all this time feels just as unreal. It's been an entire year of this, but it hardly feels like it. Instead, all the days, the weeks, and the months have all begun to blur together. I think everything was a lot easier when we initially entered quarantine. I mean, for me at least, I was so exhausted from school, extracurriculars, and just life, and it was a much needed break for me. But now, every single morning, I wake up, go to these 70-minute long classes with tiny 5-minute breaks in between, and a few hours later, I am finally done with the school day. I spend each class period waiting for it to be over, and all I have to look forward to is the weekend. And then by the time it's Monday, I'm once again anxiously waiting for it to become the weekend. What school has become is school without any of the truly enjoyable parts. No social interaction, no fun off-topic discussions, and for the most part, no in-person extracurricular activities. Instead, all we have are these painstakingly long 70-minute classes. Another thing about being in a pandemic is that when I'm not in school, I'm by myself basically all the time. And then I start to think about just what life has become. I mean, we're in this pandemic where time barely feels real, and the past year hasn't even felt like a year, and I'm about to become a senior, about to start applying to colleges, about to graduate, and soon I'll be an adult and moving on with my life. I was 15, a sophomore in high school when all this began. Will anything ever make up for this lost year of my life, this pivotal time in my high school experience, my adolescence? Or will my memories of this time in my life just always be tainted by this year that I spent all alone, by myself? And then I start to think about all the things that I missed out on in life, all those opportunities I didn't take. You know, all those football games I didn't go to, all those Friday nights spent alone in my room, all those summer breaks I barely spent time with friends. And then I start to think about the things I didn't miss out on, but still took for granted. I mean, the concept of only truly appreciating something once you've lost it really is true. I miss sitting with my friends in the locker banks before school every morning, and I miss playing ERS during lunch, and I miss swinging on swing sets, and I miss riding the train, and I miss just going to shops without a care in the world. And I miss hugging my friends, and I miss hearing people talk and laugh every single day, and I just miss being around people, and the list could go on and on and on. But instead, it's all empty. All of that is missing. And someday, it won't be like this anymore. Someday, hopefully in the near future, our definition of normalcy will float back to what it once was. I won't have to attend school on a computer anymore. I'll be able to see my friends without masks. And I'll be able to just exist like I once did. But when that happens, and once we're no longer in this pandemic, I'll make sure that I never take any of these things for granted, ever again.
Hello, sheeple. Welcome to the truth. Today I will be talking about a conspiracy theory that no one else has ever been brave enough to discuss. I'll be explaining stuff that no one else can explain. That's right, I'm talking about how Willy Wonka is actually Santa Claus. Now, I know what some of you snowflakes are thinking. Well, but Santa isn't even real. That's right, they've already gotten to it. If Santa isn't real, then who delivers the presents at Christmas, huh? Checkmate. Now, our truth begins in Germany, where we learn of a story about Krampus. Krampus is kind of like a spooky Santa Claus, where once a year, he will break into your house, determine if you've been bad or good during the year. Now, if you've been good during the year, not much happens, but if you've been bad, you are thrown into his sack, murdered, creature that you can find in a children's book about a chocolate factory. Now, in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, we are told about the Oompa Loompas, who were chased out of their home of Loompa Land by vicious creatures like the horrible Nids and the Wangdoodles and the Snozwangers. Now, the thing about the Snozwangers is that in a small little picture that we're shown in the book, they seem to have quite a similar form and figure to something of another creature that we know about. Someone like Krampus. That's right, Krampus is the Snozwanger from Loompa Land. And what is one of the Snozwanger's possible abilities that we are told about in the book? Shape-shifting. Now, this may seem like inconsequential, being able to change your shape into anyone or anything, but if you can change it to anything that you want to be, why not, I don't know, change it to an eccentric chocolate factory owner? That's right, I don't believe that the Oompa Loompas were chased out of their home, Loompa Land, by these vicious beasts that we're told about in the book. I think that they were actually chased out by Willy Wonka, who was the disguise of the Snozwanger, aka Krampus, who was simply trying to use them to start up his chocolate factory. After all, doesn't it seem a little convenient that Wonka just happened to have thousands of jobs laying around for all of these poor people who no longer had a home? I doubt it. Now, in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka is said to invite these children into his chocolate factory around the early 1920s. Once they get into the factory, they start going on a little tour, and they're taken on a really creepy boat ride, and then they're almost all nearly harmed or injured and almost murdered in some way, shape, or form. From the evil squirrels that try to hurt Veruca Salt to the fans that nearly decapitate Charlie Bucket, there's murder and danger around every corner of this chocolate factory. Now, all of these children walk out of the factory, but almost all of them have been changed, if not severely traumatized, in some way, shape, or form. Which means that Wonka just didn't achieve the goal that he wanted to yet. Now, after the inevitable HR crisis that's going to follow the fact that you harmed a bunch of children in your chocolate factory, Wonka quickly threw out the idea of the chocolate factory and passed it along to Charlie Bucket. Then Wonka took his Oompa Loompas and just moved to the farthest possible place that they could think of, like the North Pole or something. There, Wonka gained a few pounds, grew a beard, dyed it white, changed his name, and took on the alias of Santa Claus. His Oompa Loompas now his elves, helping him make little toys. Now, in the late 1920s, we are shown a version of Santa Claus that no one had really seen in the world yet, by the Coca-Cola Corporation, who decided to capitalize on the idea of a jolly old man giving gifts to children once a year. This really just shows the fact that Santa, working with the Coca-Cola Corporation, proves his deep love of capitalism, which is also shared by Willy Wonka, because he also owned a factory, and who doesn't love capitalism more than a factory owner? Now, with their deep love of capitalism binding them together, I'm sure you're wondering, why does this even matter that they might be linked? Since neither of them are even evil. Wrong. In 2004, we are shown a movie called The Polar Express. Now, The Polar Express seems just like a cute little film about children who are kidnapped from their homes and taken on a train. But if you watch the movie, you'll notice that it actually is a lot darker than it seems on the outside. The train itself, while trying to cover up the fact that the conductor nearly throws a girl off when she doesn't have a ticket in the train's faulty brake system, distracts the children on it by showing them little bells and whistles and the wait staff doing dances and such. The children don't even think to assume that something might be wrong about this. And so, once they reach the North Pole and the train stops, most of them leave, except for one character who had to stay behind, so the main character stayed behind to help them. Now, separated separated from the rest of the children, the main character group seems to go through this wild ride in Santa's house, eventually landing up in the workshop where the elves, or the Oompa Loompas, then later took them to Santa Claus. Santa gave them a little gift and sent them on their way, back on the ride home on the train. But if you watch the end of that movie and you look at the train, there's no one else in that train other than the main children. The train is absolutely empty except for like the 4 kids that we followed in the original storyline. What happened to all those other children, you ask? Well, I think it can be easy to assume that Santa kept them all there to slowly kill them because he's Krampus. Krampus kidnaps children on the train, but he kidnaps the children. It's Krampus. Now, of course, I'm sure that you're possibly now wondering, fine, Santa could be evil, here's your proof, blah, blah, blah. How does this affect me in any way, shape, or form? Well, I'll tell you how. Krampus is still out there. We know he is. Every year, we teach children to build shrines to this evildoer and wait for him on Christmas night so that he can slowly capture them and take them in his sack. Also, we are shown that Wonka still has a hold in the industry. After all, his candy is still shown on store shelves. Have you ever bought a pack of Nerds lately? No artificial flavoring? What's in it then? What makes them taste like that? We don't know. That's because they're deceiving you too. Merry Christmas indeed.
There once was a girl who started off so strong. She had no anticipation of her future, of the things that would go wrong. She was clueless about the ups and downs she would experience throughout the days. She was clueless about rising up from the ground and finding different ways. She didn't know how to love herself until after years of hard work. After all, it took her quite a while to get out of the murk. Days had passed and she blossomed tall. She began to grow up and break through the wall. Excited for another chapter of her never-ending book, it all came crumbling down as soon as she got a look of the people around her standing so tall, blazing bright. They withheld a power and an endless might, one she can never compare to. It was an inevitable battle that she was forced to fight. She tried and tried and tried once more. It all seemed hopeless. The beauty she withheld, broken on the floor. Her self-confidence stranded ashore. She was innocent and unnoticed. Everywhere she went, she could come and go without sight or scent. Time went by and her dull colors were fading away. Everyone else shined through while she remained there, small and gray. Looking in the mirror, she saw disappointment and rage, and she began to wonder if she would ever be let out of her cage. Blinded by her tears, she sat alone in the room, overwhelmed by the fact that her flowers would never bloom. Surrounded by the darkness, she sat down in the corner, going from a blissful state to a mere mourner. Surrounded by her friends and family, all of who she loved. But she was so alone, the dark clouds forming up above. Her mouth was zipped shut and she couldn't say. And everything that made her special went away on that day. Why wasn't she good enough? Why was she always down low? How could she make things better? She cried, desperate to know. How could a moment last forever? could she make it all stop? How could she tell her loved ones that she was beginning to drop? Moments turned to days and months. She started to recluse away, backing down from the front. She stayed at the back of the line where she couldn't be seen, because that was better, after all, to cover herself with a dark screen. One day, the door opened wide with a gentle squeak, and she found something that she had always been trying to seek. Mascara running down her face, she jumped up and embraced them all. She found someone who thought she couldn't be replaced. She no longer felt so small. They told her and told her and told her once more that she was perfect how she was, that she was perfect, they swore. Her faults and cracks and imperfections too made her who she was, the beautiful girl she grew into. The warmth shone on her, and this time she wasn't afraid of the light. This time she embraced her beautiful self. This time she embraced her might. She found the woman who loved her as she could never do. She found the light inside of her, which finally shined through. Her flowers bloomed and her colors beamed, radiating energy that no one had ever seen. The little girl no longer felt alone. As she started to support herself, she began to glow brightly on her own throne.
Here lies Jared Zhang, reserved, dedicated, honor student. Okay, I know I shouldn't disrespect the dead, but that's a terrible epitaph. Wait a minute, that's my epitaph. Honor students? This is my greatest fear. It isn't failing in life, but not knowing what I've done with this. My entire life so far has been like IKEA. 16 years ago, a chubby, snot-filled Asian baby was given the goal of being successful. And due to the fact that I looked at the results of sloppy seconds between Randall Park and Kim Jong-un, you can probably assume mine said three things. Get a 4.0 GPA, go to a top 20 school, and retire by owning a laundromat or a nail salon. So for the past 16 years, my pieces are grades and standardized tests. I build by studying, and my secret Swedish overlords are my parents. And with a little dexterity, an Allen wrench, and meatballs, I can hopefully make a decent life for myself. But what I'm scared of is the fact that life is not like IKEA. The pieces aren't always there, the instructions are unclear, and we don't have secret Swedish overlords. Problem. This need for our own set of instructions is what French philosopher Albert Camus described as the absurd. But that doesn't have a great ring to it. That's why I like to call it the suck. Well, the suck is the reason that so many people go on solo backpacking trips in the Alps to discover themselves or find a calling. The suck is the reason why people spend thousands of dollars on millionaire mastery programs to find the elusive solution to success. The suck is the reason that millions of students around the country go into STEM and medicine, not because they want to or they have a genuine passion for it, but because they feel like they have to. We can all agree that having choices and freedoms are a good thing, but like cake, hangover films, and Star Wars movies, too much can quickly become bad. What we have to realize is that having a near infinite number of choices is debilitating. So people often try to solve this by finding a simple single path to live their life. But living your life on a single path is not the correct answer. Take a look at mine. My early childhood has been filled with SAT prep books, honors classes, and AP exams. I'm not blaming my parents because having a competitive resume for college is a really good thing. But like anything good, it's come at a cost. I don't know who I am, what I want to do, or who I want to become. There's nothing I'm more jealous of than someone who truly knows what they want to do. Whether it's being a data scientist at Boston University or an adult actor, their clarity is something I truly want. I'm lost in an IKEA. I'm just stuck in this garish, blue Swedish brick, filled with floor models that sound like they were named by someone smashing their head against a keyboard. And as I move from kitchen to office to bedroom to the kitchen again, I find myself stuck in an endless Swedish hell until I find myself ugly crying into a bowl of $5 meatballs. But there's plenty of people out there trying to sell their own solution and instruction manual to success. But none of it is foolproof. We've all heard about the merits of a college education, but the student loan crisis is only getting worse, and there's plenty of successful people who never went to college. We've heard about trying to drop ship or resell clothing, but people call those people scam artists, and for a valid reason. And we've all heard about the crown jewel of the economy, an absolute white whale, the stock market. Well, good luck with that, because that crown jewel is currently in the possession of a young Harrison Ford in a cowboy hat, and that white whale has been harpooned by thousands of Reddit users using their stimulus checks. These people want you to believe the same thing. We can all make it if we just follow the same correct instructions and keep on moving forward. But that's just not true. You can lose a piece you swore you just saw. Your instruction manual can become misprinted or ripped, and halfway through while building, you might realize you want to build something completely different. Life isn't about going down a perfect step-by-step path. It's about taking bumps, cuts, and bruises and learning from them. We all had to learn this message when in last March, we got hit with a pathological freight train. With virtually everything closed and my social interaction going from 0 to 0, I was lost. For 3 months, all I did was stay in my room, not knowing what to do, without purpose, and feeling stuck. I was a prisoner to my own mental Alcatraz. Don't worry, I didn't drop the soap because I didn't shower in the first place. But I managed to escape. Not with a tunnel I chiseled out with a plastic spork, but with the nerdiest thing I have ever done. Dungeons and Dragons. I replaced my mental and emotional dungeon with an imaginative one, filled with adventure, interesting people, and a shocking amount of plagiarism. Though I now spend 4 hours of my Friday afternoons throwing math rocks at imaginary creatures and situations, D&D has taught me some important lessons. Like, there isn't always a single path to go down. Both life and D&D has a variety of different paths and journeys for any kind of person or adventuring party. Or that it's sometimes good to take a break from your main quest and complete a side quest. As a result, you might fix a town goblin crisis, and you might learn something about yourself. The past few months have been an emotional roller coaster filled with blight, self-discovery, and a disgusting amount of incognito tabs. I'm looking at you, Yashis. And in these past months, I've learned that you can't brute force your way throughout life. What we have to do is just take the things that are right in front of us and start building something for ourselves. Will it be perfect? No. But perfect is overrated. The most important part is that you build something for yourself. And it's not the creation of a tech guru, a Wall Street wannabe, or an engineer that sounds like the chef from Sesame Street. What we need to do is go out to IKEA, purchase a furniture kit, throw out the instructions, and start building.
Slow down, you're overthinking. I know it's hard to stick to breathing. Don't let the thoughts overwhelm your head. And maybe, oh baby, stick to laughing instead. It's gonna be okay, you tell yourself. But actions speak louder than words. So take your pain from the shelf and hold it in place. Take a step and put on a different face. It's okay to feel these emotions. You're a real human with losses and devotions. Slow down, take a breath. It's gonna be okay. Nothing beautiful stays, and you can't get better in one day. Remember the way you look beautiful today, and don't shed a tear. The end is nowhere near, and you get to stay beautiful for another day. You take a breath and count your steps. My dear child, you've been screaming since the moment you've been born. Do you ever get tired or worn? Do you want to breathe, or do you feel the need to suffocate yourself over pain you don't deserve? Slow down, please, my dear. I'm sorry, but the end is nowhere near. Please be the beautiful that stays. But you can't get better, and you won't get better in just one day.
You ever have a bad feeling about something? Like you just know something's going to go wrong?
She and I met at the grocery store. I'm not a big shopper myself, but I needed some essentials.
I can't believe it all started off so harmless. He seemed so innocent and kind.
She was looking for some apples. I was reaching for the pears when we locked eyes.
The first time you looked at me, I could sense that our paths would cross again. I don't know how I knew. I just did.
Her eyes glistened like a lake at sunrise. Her hair, beautiful. I mean, she was beautiful. I knew I had to see her again.
Our second encounter was at a party. I know, cliche, but it was the first time that he had talked to me.
Hey, girl from the grocery store, right?
Guy reaching for the pears?
Yeah, that's me. This place is pretty lively.
Yeah, and loud too.
I'm James, by the way.
Anna, nice to meet you, James.
So what are you doing here?
Just here to party, I guess. What about you?
Oh, I know the host. She's a family friend of mine. And I figured I could get out of the house more. Okay, so I know this is pretty straightforward, but I think you're really pretty. And I was wondering if you wanted to go out sometime.
Actually, I have a boyfriend.
Okay. Can I at least have your number? I would love to be friends.
Yeah, sure. Here. Look, I lied. I didn't actually have a boyfriend. Don't get me wrong, Pearboy was nice and all, but he just wasn't my type. And besides, he was way too forward, which is exactly why I gave him a fake number. jerk move, but he was seriously creeping me out. I just wanted to get rid of him.
I should have figured she wouldn't have given me her real number. It's fine though. I was just a temporary setback. I just need to make her see me in a new light. Or many of them.
I figured that he'd just given up and moved on to some other girl, but then he started to show up wherever I went. I'd go to the mall, and he'd be there. The bank, he'd be there. The subway, my office. He'd even follow me to come pick up my laundry. That man was everywhere, and there was no way it was a coincidence. I knew something was off, I just never had the guts to do anything about it. And then one day, he just showed up at my house. James, what are you doing here?
Are you finally gonna give me a chance?
Am I missing something? The last time I saw you was at that party.
Yes, and since then you've been thinking of me.
I'm sorry. I really think you should go.
And I think you should give me a chance. Stop being stubborn.
Stubborn? I saw you at the grocery store and at a party, and since then you've just been following me around. I really don't think I've shown any interest in you.
You know, when you locked eyes with me, I knew we were destined to be together. Was following you around the best idea? Probably not. But was it the most effective? Certainly. Man, I learned so much about you.
You're a full-on stalker.
A stalker? What? No, listen. That was just the hands-on immersive learning. I would have figured this stuff about you eventually. I just went the extra mile and figured it out for myself. Besides, your whole life is online. If you didn't want me to figure it out, then why'd you put it on the internet in the first place? Then you definitely shouldn't have led me on.
Wait,
Oh, listen, at least this way we can skip the boring old get to know you phase, and this way I can be prepared. You don't even have to lift a finger. My entire world already revolves around you. I know how you like your coffee, your favorite flowers, where you work, the radio station you listen to in the car, everything. I am the perfect man for you, and you are just overreacting.
James,
Don't even get started with me on that. I did this all for you, and you can't even see that. But don't worry, you will.
Wait, what? You're psychotic. That's it. I'm calling the cops.
Stop that! I am doing this for you, and you can't even see that. I am putting in the effort. I'm trying to make this work. I'm just going to go. You are obviously the problem here. I didn't expect her to be so difficult. Man, she causes so many issues for me. I'm making this work, and she can't even see that. She will, though.
I did what anyone would have done. Called the police, gave him a claim, even filed for a restraint. But he just kept coming back again and again and again. Not even legal power could keep him away. And then one day he just disappeared for good. February 14th. That was the last day I ever saw him. Ironic, I know. And I should be glad that he's gone, but to this day I still find myself double and triple checking every night that my locks still work, and my windows are shut, and every door I walk through is closed tight behind me. I haven't seen him in a while, sure, but I still feel like he's around, watching.
I've been to the mental hospital 3 times, and each time I've met a boy. The first time I went to the hospital, I met a boy named Liam. He used to always put his head on my shoulder. Like for real, not like the song. And of course, the staff got mad because they're really freaking strict. They're so strict, I got in trouble for ripping up a damn styrofoam cup. This lady legit said, "I wish we didn't have styrofoam cups because of people like you." What a jerk. Okay, enough about the styrofoam cup. After about 2 weeks of knowing each other, he proposed to me. He legit got down on one knee in front of everyone and said, "Will you marry me?" And I said, can I let you know? We eventually got engaged, but the staff was hella pissed because no contact. But once he discharged, I never saw him again. The second time I went to the hospital, I met a boy named Curtis. One day we went out to the garden to cut some flowers and herbs. He then came up to me and gave me some flowers, but why'd he give me the flowers? They're gonna shrivel up and die anyway. Which they did, because Chicago weather. R.I.P. Curtis's flowers. The third time around at the hospital, I met a boy named Mason. We instantly clicked. I even told him, "Hey, you look a lot like the boy I asked to homecoming." He said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I responded with, No, you have nothing to apologize for." Looking back, he looked nothing like the boy I asked to homecoming. Like, not at all. Mason was way hotter. Mason and I ended up going to a homeschool dance together. Now you might be wondering, how the hell did you go to a dance in the middle of a pandemic? To be honest, I don't know how to answer that question because I wonder that too. Speaking of the dance, I remember reading a story in 8th grade about a group of kids who went to a dance. One of the lines of the main character was, "We engaged in delicious dancing." How the heck can dancing be delicious? But it was nice dancing with him. In fact, it was a dream come true. The biggest lesson I learned in high school is to not focus on boys. Each time I went to the hospital, I had to keep going back because I didn't focus on my treatment. It's not the boy's fault at all. It's mine for being boy crazy. Bottom line, you're the most important person in your life, so focus on yourself and your well-being. But don't give up on love, because one day you won't have to dream alone. Lastly, don't accept flowers from strangers.
What do you do when you fall asleep? Do you dream? Are you flying through the skies? Are you with the people that you love? Are all your aspirations coming to reality? Now, have you ever woken up back in that world? A day or weeks later, you go to sleep and you end up in that same world, where all the people that you met and all experiences you had are continuing on as if you never left. If you've had this happen, it's amazing. If you haven't, hopefully one day you will, because it's somewhat of a blessing. Now, what if that world was a nightmare, where all your fears and anxieties come at you at all times? Well, then that's more of a curse. Now, what if that world was both a nightmare and just a normal dream, where the people and experiences you have are amazing, but you're scared of what lies underneath all that? For the past 6 years, that's what I call home when I sleep. A place where the laws of physics don't exist, where people live in suffering and pain, where some people are good, some people are bad, others cause harm and do horrible things, where the things in this world are amazing and brilliant, but some I do take for granted. This is where I go home this is what I do when I sleep. When I originally woke up here, I was scared. My now best friend seemed to almost kill me. Luckily, someone was there to save me and help me out, and quickly told me what this road was. The land of the dead. A place where if you die and someone up there doesn't know if you're either good enough to go up or bad enough to go down, they put you here. People of this world live in constant fear. There's no established religion. So you don't know if the thing that you valued your entire life was just false. You were never right in believing that. Not to mention that when you come here, you get a power based on how your life was. Most people only know how to use that power to harm others because before I showed up, a government system was made based on how much harm you did would equal your social status. It's horrible. People live in constant fear of what others around them would do and what exactly should they believe in. It really questions your morals. Not to mention that you can die again. This throws people's realities into a mix. They question God. They question life itself. There's two types of people here. You have those that know how they died, that have to live with the fact of how they died and try to put that into their lives. Then you have those that never know how they died, or they died in their sleep, in a coma. They have to now question how they died, why they died, and they're thrown into a lot more chaos than most other people. When I first showed up here, I immediately felt the weight of my shoulders would equal to a 1-ton truck. I mean, everyone I met seemed to be in suffering and pain, but there were some good people out there. Some people that the more I've talked to them, the more experiences I've had with them, the better this world has been for me. For example, I met a man named Lucas in the first few months of this world. He dreamed of stardom, he wished for fame, and he was almost there until a man mugged him in an alleyway and he used his final words to curse him out. Then he spent a few years in this world trying to get to that same stardom he once had. Then there was a man named Bruce, who, after a long 13, 16-year battle with depression and anxiety, took his own life. He now has to live with the fact that he was wrong in doing that he left his loved ones behind in order to move forward in what he hoped would be a better reality. I know that he regrets it every damn day of his life. But who knows? This is all a dream, right? It's REM sleep. You know, the part of when you sleep when your brain processes everything that you do during that day. All your thoughts, all your memories are processed. But you don't really remember what you did during your dreams. You know, you may have some vague memory. You know, remember eating something maybe, you remember touching something, you remember smelling something. Hell, you may even remember feeling pain. But you don't remember the exact feeling. It's not a memory for you. But that's it between your dream and my dream. I remember everything. Pain, touch, sense, smell. I remember pain even. When I first showed up here the first few days, I was in terrible shape mentally. I was feeling the pain of almost being killed. I remembered my reality being thrown into a mix. I didn't know what to do. I questioned God, I questioned reality. I felt lost. The only thing I dreamed of was getting out of my own dreams. Luckily, that's changed. The more and more people I've met, the more people I've talked to, the better it has seemed for me. Where now, I don't question anything I do in that world. Where I'm now in love with it more. Where I see it as more of an escape from reality than kind of a curse. It's more of a blessing for me. Where I know if I'm having a bad day on either side, I know I can go visit the other one. It's a stress reliever for me. Where now I know that on either side, whenever I'm asleep or awake, I have people I love, family, friends, people that will help me out whenever I need them. But whenever I explain this to someone, they're always lost. They're confused. People never know what they would want to do in this situation, where if you're questioning your own reality and you end up in a dream continuously for the 6 years, you wouldn't know what to do. So I'll pose that question to you. What would you do? What would you do? What world would you choose to be real? A dream one where, yes, you have a superpower, but yet you live in constant fear of what will happen around you, that there are people out there who can help you, but who knows what you'll find. Then there's this one, the world that you're most familiar with, the world that you remember the most of, where, yes, there's still a lot of questions on what will happen to it, and you don't know where you're going to go, but you can rest easy knowing that this is reality. So, what would you choose?
I think I'm feeling blue today. Sometimes it's hard to tell, but I know for sure when every whisper I hear sounds like an angry yell. It arrives around the strangest days, the good and bad alike, and then it hits. A crashing wave, a turbulent spike. I see it coming from afar, but I can't escape its tide, and then I'm sinking. But the world still has no inkling. And how could they? I reached the bottom and hit the sand, but there is only numbness now, not pain. Fighting the ocean is a useless task when there is nothing one could gain. I'll just let it carry me, like a siren song to a distant isle. For though my ship is a sturdy thing, she feels empty all the while. To Atlantis my ship has taken me, and to Poseidon's gate. But no more dreams does she procure for me. Surrounded by water, I am desolate. Perhaps the solution to my troubles is simple. Perhaps all I merely need is a change of pace, a different place, a state of grace. I know. But even this can't guarantee to me the solace that I yearn and seek. For skies can still tenebrate, and I can close my eyes, count to 10, but future doubts will still proliferate. Don't get me wrong, for I am strong. I am not meek. I've soldiered through every single hurricane, navigated the Sargassum, and surfed with breezy ease through the salty cobalt seas. Indigo, azure, cerulean, navy. Despite all my blue days, I will still try to love me.
Welcome to the Monologue Show, brought to you by Neuqua Valley Theater, presented by the overcommitted student body. Finally, an outlet for the miserable adolescents railing against a society that doesn't fit them yet, strained by their own parentry, their mental ills, their stress. Welcome to the Monologue Show. Last place you'll be yourself and free before a raging wave crashes down on you by society or lockdown. I know what I had planned, like everyone else. Finally, divulge my emotional ails. Write another song or play. Tell a quirky story with a big finale. Out walking Mr. Rossi, leading a pack of runners, my mom yells out, "We named a foster cat after you." At that moment, I locked eyes with my crush. Welcome to the Monologue Show. Not what it's used to being, but you've heard and you'll hear the next generation of vocal citizenry. And that's on Just Speaking Truth. Quarantine boredom. Earth becomes stunted, day passes with a lilt. Freshly baked bread wafts gently through the house, invigorated by a sense of endless time to fill. Determined to acquire new hobbies and do goodwill, capacitated by masterclass, YouTube, Great British Baking Show, Earth becomes stunted, day passes with a lilt. Who knew the great outdoors existed still? Stimulated by the presence of prairie and hiking past neighbors, invigorated by a sense of endless time to fill. Watch closely as nature revives itself, outside birds trill. Families vested with desire for a new pet, Earth becomes stunted, day passes with a lilt. Phantom symptoms, paranoid of getting ill, tireless nights and desperate for postponed vacations, invigorated by a sense of endless time to fill. Sending love to those heroes who work here in our communities, yet quarantine boredom cannot contain our impulse to interact. Earth becomes stunted, day passes with a lilt, invigorated by a sense of endless time to fill. A protest, a riot. Summer heat and guns blazing, riding squad cars like horses, cavalry. Man held down as protesters pleaded for his life. Ego's power riding their backs, these trusted people brought him down to his death. Who could blame everyone else for rising? In cold winter and guns blazing, on command to incite violence, carrying flags of the Confederacy, messages of hate, mistrust, and hypocrisy ran clear. America in awe of a dichotomy of forces operating? Law, these people were obviously defying. Social change is fraught with tension, a protest pushing boundaries, not violence pinned so ignorantly to just cause as bystanders and critics resist conceding to their privilege. When you attempt to overthrow an honest election armed with intent to crack the keystone, yours, sir, insurrector, is the riot. Remote everything. The phrases that make me wish I was on a remote desert island so I never have to hear them again. Where a soul thrives under no gaze, yet solitude beneath tree of palm on glittering gold sands strikes opportune to escape academics' scheduling praise. Amidst these unprecedented times, to perpend my head I fan. Bestowed by the year of 2020, a great misery. Wish these salutations on a note that portrays sunny shore. From my departure followed that which heard I plenty of. All my Zoom is lagging. Beg your pardon, 1 minute more. Roused from slumbers to turn thy attention to tablets. Retire to villa adorned with decadence aside great sea. 'Tis not in greatest confidence at that I met. If you could turn your cameras on, thou would please. Thou fear speaking for poor connection, share and experience thy point of view. Much rather I would pass time on an island deserted than unmute. Post-vaccine, the unapocalypse. Braced haughtily, propelled an extravagant car's impact. Reality shocks, slipped wryly through fingers, left unsatiated. Humanity plowed headfirst, totaling their vessels, toppled by anticipation's weight. Unfamiliar, faces are everyone but no one I know. Projected years, all tomorrows without fear of not seeing faces. All that glitters is not gold. Maybe silver lining, glistening needles, refractions of past. She slipped silently into whispers of yesterday. Void echoes rippling reality. Remember thinking the snow now forever eludes her gaze. Forward bound. Toward warming embrace, success over pitfall. Emergence never occurs in wandering youth, they tread and wake. In clamps of age we pivot, so rosy, so vile. Behold life like Paharas and flight without reprieve, memory simmer.